Yeah, it was good to see her. She was at the show.
But I am like,
All right, I'd like to call to order this school district of Sturgeon Bay regular board meeting of education here on Wednesday, February 19th, 2025. Will everyone please stand up for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Denise, would you like to do the roll call?
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Here.
Commissioner Howard,
Here.
Commissioner Cruz,
here,
Commissioner Stefani,
Here.
Commissioner Jennerjohn,
here,
Commissioner Chisholm,
here,
Commissioner Haas,
here.
Commissioner Meyer, here, and Commissioner Schultz is excused.
Perfect, thank you. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda that's in front of you?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Okay,
Second.
all right, we have a motion by Commissioner Sturgeon, seconded by Commissioner Chisholm to adopt the agenda. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. So now we are to student council representative report. Izzy, or thank you for coming. Good to see you.
Hi, so I apologize for missing the last one. I feel so bad. I just like got sick and it was super last minute, and then I couldn't tell Luke because it was so last minute. So I just really apologize for that off the board. School.
Everyone was super sad that night.
It's okay.
Okay, I just want to clear that
All
up.
good. You're okay.
So far, since then, it has been pretty quiet, so hasn't been a whole lot that you've been missing out on. But we had the blood drive with the community blood center, so that was really exciting because we got a lot of people to come and they had a van outside instead of the gym, so that was like easier for them to consolidate. And I think it was pretty successful. I obviously didn't coordinate with them afterwards, but I did give blood, so like that whole process was very smooth. And so we also will do another one later in a month or so. I don't know the exact date, but we will coordinate that. And so for Valentine's Day, we gave kids like candy and some bags with like a little message. And so then we had student council representatives bake that and then hand that out during fourth block. So people seemed to enjoy it. Thought that was sweet. And this then like upcoming, we have the boys volleyball tournament. So each grade will compete against each other during flipper time, and that's always fun for like morale and just like in the winter time. And then we will also plan a spring break before spirit week before spring break. We just talk about doing like more summery things to try and get people excited for spring break. And then we have a Culver's Night March 4th just for fundraising. And then in the next meeting, actually, we'll vote for the officers for next year. And so then we'll get like the president and vice president, and then maybe even like a secretary. And then we're just planning the end of year trip to Six Flags. Well, that's all we've literally been doing. It's been pretty quiet.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Izzy only has about 3.5 months remaining as a school district of Sturgeon Bay student on behalf of her and her colleagues, right?
Yes. Very exciting these upcoming times, but it's very stressful. Just trying to plan everything and figure everything out.
And in the spring, what do you do in addition to be a student here, of course, and in student council?
Well, I'm on the soccer team. I'm the goalkeeper. And so we've started open gyms for that. And then I play indoor soccer on weekends, kind of like in preparation. And so that's like, I'm really looking forward to this season because it's so fun, and Bob is such a great coach. And so I just like it. Really.
That's great.
And I'll be learning, as Izzy knows, as a first-time soccer dad. Again, he hasn't played it since like the summer of 2nd and 3rd grade or.
Oh, wow.
I forget, it was the first or second summer after we moved.
Yes.
So she's excited. She's joined you guys with some of the weekends, right? Playing defense.
She's really
Defense.
She's
She
got
likes to
some-
run into people, so you know. Doesn't get called for the fouls quite like when that happens in basketball. So yeah. So
No,
yeah, enjoying watching you as goalkeeper this spring.
Thank you. Very excited.
So recently the high school also had some different things to build school spirit. And there's something with like DJ Nerpster or
Yeah, I heard
What,
about
what can you tell from, not that you had to be responsible for that, because you weren't, but what can you tell the school board about that?
Well, they would. I just like, I'm not here in the mornings anymore, but
Just based on what you heard.
throughout the day, there was like, you could send song requests to somebody, and then they would play a song of the announcement, like
Mhm.
20-30 seconds of the song, and they would play fairly loudly on the announcements in between
The
passing
board
periods.
members are old enough to know, like, one time I was having a meeting and all of a sudden, like, is that Rick Astley being played right now? See, some board members, you can appreciate that even better than our high school students perhaps. What else would you add as far as what you know about, the DJ in the office?
Well, he's,
She's searching.
fun. It was like, it was really, like, it was very like interesting, because I've never done anything like that before.
And then there was like a Valentine's trivia
Yeah.
staff member.
Yeah, there was like a mystery staff member, and then they would have somebody come on, like a student guess who that was, with like clues revealed each day, and so that was fun to narrow it down, and there's Mr. Keycaver. And so slowly got.
Down to the last day, I
Yes.
understand, right? Yeah.
I did think that they're just gonna extend it and all the week until they said, like, you're just gonna keep saying no until Friday. That was my theory. That's my conspiracy.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if we can confirm or deny.
Smiling and nodding right now, I never know what that means.
So that was my theory, but that was really fun to hear, because it's like our students.
All right. There you have it, right from the mouth of the student council president. And we'll have you hit this one more time before you leave us in the spring with the introductions, like you said, of incoming student council, but we'll kind of finish on this and get you out the door. And again, kind of as a reminder for anyone, we do have a few folks like the League of Women Voters and some others that do watch and take notes on our meeting, as well as obviously our board members listening. So Izzy, tell us again, what are you thinking about for next year?
Sorry, you took this question a lot.
And you will the next 3 days.
No, it's completely warranted, because it's so exciting. But, I'm thinking, like UW-Madison is probably where I'm leaning towards, but I'm still weighing out my options with other schools like Loyola, which I'm actually gonna probably go see on Friday, because we don't have school. And so I'm still looking at Minnesota and Marquette and just some other like more Midwestern schools. I'm just waiting.
Still weighing your options. So to speak.
Yes.
What do you hope to study?
I'm going in like a business, kind of like a general business, but because I'm interested in law, but I'm just not like 100% sure if that's what I want to go. So it's like a pre-business law to kind of keep my options.
Very good. Anybody else want to pepper Izzy with a question before we let her off the hook for tonight? Commissioner Spring is thinking about something.
Done plenty.
Yeah.
All right, President Devine, I think we're good. Izzy, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next we have public comment section. I don't think Andy, are you good? No. All right, so I think we're good on that. So now we are down to the consent agenda. And the consent agenda, I will read through this. We wish to approve the meeting minutes from the regular meeting of January 15th, 2025, and the board retreat February 5th of 2025. Approving the January bills that's in your packet. Point 3, grants and donations under the Robert Nicola Auditorium. We have, I'm going to read a bunch here. $5,000 to donate Gretchen Schmalzer in memory of Steve Schmalzer. Also, we have Brian and Amy Stevens donating. We have $1,500 from Dr. Jennifer Olson, $537 from the Sturgeon Bay High School class of 1958. We have $500 donations from the following: Susan Osted, Debbie and John Brodowski, Rick and Nancy Jean Court Charitable Foundation, Dale and Jeannie Schaff, Madeline Jean Court, Sydney Jean Court, Grant Jean Court, Marina Jean Court, Jacqueline Peterson, the Tom Berlin family, Spouty family, and Kristen Cole. Combs, excuse me. $100 from Ms. Jack and Cindy Pauling, John and Jane Stevenson Charitable Foundation, Reverend James and Michelle Gomez, Margaret Lockwood Gallery, Bridget and Chad Shevchik, Mark and Lori Feedy, Lucy Kyle, Todd and Dee Dee Bauer, and then we have $50 from Sydney Maxwell, Carmen Yora, Pam Feaster, Kelly Hamilton, and in honor of Janine Olson. $25 from Tim and Judy Smith, $20 from Diane and Craig Ron, and Kristen Engelbert, and Darlene and Art Holfelder. $500 was donated by the Sturgeon Bay PTO for the district author visit. $500 towards the playground from Debbie and John Krajowski. $500 towards youth and resources grant. This grant Middles and Littles from the Door County Service Club Coalition. $500 towards the middle school dance team from Just in Time Charitable Foundation, $77 for a lunch program from Sean Wadier, $77 for a Sunrise ID and Autism program for Sean Wadier, $351 for first and second grade Widener Center trip from the Sturgeon Bay PTO, $265 for 4K tickets to Buckets and Boards comedy percussion show from the Sturgeon Bay PTO, and Ray Brook donated towards the Spanish 3 field trip. Thank you to all of these groups and individuals associated with them for their generosity. This is outstanding. Resignations and retirements. Lynette Tank is retiring from her Safe Harbor Special Education Associate position at Sawyer. John Mayberry is retiring from his maintenance position. Beth Hubbard is retiring from her reading interventionist position. And Kelly Vanoy will be retiring from her special education teacher associate position at the end of this school year. Point 5, accept academic and career planning ACP plan. Per DPI's administrative code P126, school boards are required to indicate on pupil's transcript the name of each course completed by the pupil, the number of high school credits earned for each course, whether a course is eligible for post-secondary credit, and if applicable, the course's participating post-secondary institution. 2, annual review and, if necessary, update the long-range plan and education for employment program under section PI 26.03. This review shall evaluate pupil post-secondary outcomes. At the conclusion of the review, the school board shall prepare a report on the school district's education for employment program. The report shall describe the education for employment program's current progress and future goals related to improving pupil post-secondary outcomes. 3, publish its long-range plan under 26.03 and the report under sub 2 on the school district website. 4, annually notify parents of its education for employment program. The notice shall inform parents of the information and opportunities available to pupils under PA 26.03, 2 and 3, including the availability of programs at technical colleges. Items 1, 3, and 4 are carried out by career readiness team members, Principal Nervy, Counselor Hanley, Podolsky, Wando, and Martins, and Tech Integration Specialist Jen Hansen. Significant assistance, data, and review also provided by David Gordon and Lauren Ballman, Youth Apprenticeship Coordinator and School-Based Coach for CESA 7. Item 2 requires school board review and approval annually. Attached in your packet is the updated Sturgeon Bay High School ACP plan. A motion to approve the ACP plan as presented is recommended.
I'll make a motion to approve the ACP plan as presented.
Yeah.
And then I think you want to just say Neola, just as listed.
Yeah, Neola, the 0.6 Neola as listed. Sorry about that. We'll just do this all under consent. Neola board policy updates, volume 33, number 2, second reading. They're all listed there. A motion to approve the consent items as presented is recommended. So now
If I can
I
get it.
can approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Wait a second.
A second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jenner John, second by Commissioner Haas to approve the consent agenda as just read. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And boy, that's a lot of words for me for tonight.
Here's a break.
Yeah. All right, now we are to the operations end of things. So, first we have we really approve a high school coaching positions. We got a couple here, softball assistant coach. It's the first one.
Perfect, thank you. As you see with two A and two B. And help, let's say, or not.
Or not, right?
Yeah. We'll do them separately since they're two individuals, but splitting the assistant coach position, right? 50-50, you see that described there. So first of all, Principal Nervy Athletic Director Dupuy recommend Alexis Potvin. Again, splitting that contract 50-50 as our high school assistant softball coach. Some of you might know that she is currently a teacher in the district here at the high school in special education and is eager to help grow the softball program. So motion first to approve Alexis Potvin as an assistant softball coach, again, under the split contract, is recommended.
I move to approve Alexis Potvin as the assistant softball coach.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Cruz, seconded by Commissioner Howard to approve Alexis Potvin as the assistant softball coach. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I'll go right to two B then, the second part of that. Again, Principal Nervy, AD Dupuy recommended Rachel Miller to fill the other half, if you will, of that split contract as a high school assistant softball coach. Again, you know Rachel as a grad from here, currently teaching in the middle school, helping out with school basketball this winter, and also eager to help out this spring with softball. Motion to approve Rachel Miller as an assistant softball coach under the split contract is recommended.
I move to approve Rachel Miller as an assistant softball coach with a split contract.
Second.
Right, we have a motion by Commissioner Jenner John, seconded by Commissioner Chisholm to approve Rachel Miller as an assistant softball coach with a split contract. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Now, point C, well, we're not taking action on that tonight, that the person is withdrawn from that. So we're not doing point C. So we're now down to three, the approved and set building construction lead.
Yeah, and really this in number three here is much like a coaching or assistant coach position, right? It's not a full-time position here anymore. That. So Principal Nervy is excited to recommend Jimmy Balistreri to be hired as the set build / construction lead, as well as serve as technical director of the Sturgeon Bay High School Spring Musical. Jimmy's married to Sophie Weidman, our newly approved high school theater director. Jimmy grew up in Plymouth, earned his Bachelor of Arts in Theater at good old Ripon College. He then spent a year working at Tap Theater as their production manager and resident designer, which involved building and designing sets while he completed his Master of Arts from UC Irvine in lighting design. Jimmy currently works as a freelance lighting designer and AEA stage manager. He has experience working as a lighting designer and stage manager with Northern Sky Theater, Tap Theater, the Milwaukee Repertory Theater, Milwaukee Chamber Theater, Renaissance Theater Works, and UW Green Bay, right? Excellent experience. Our kids will benefit from there. He'll be working independently to build the set and will train students in lighting and other technical elements to prepare them for careers in theater. His experience, again, will be invaluable to our production and kids. Motion to approve Jimmy Balistreri as the set build / construction lead is recommended.
I'll make a motion to approve Jimmy Balistreri as the set build construction lead.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Haas, seconded by Commissioner Howard to approve Jimmy Balistreri as the set build / construction lead position. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And now we are approving Cassandra Etner
Yeah.
Special Education Teacher Associate.
Director of Special Education Pupil Services, Director Ferry, is pleased to recommend Cassandra Etner for the Special Education Teacher Associate position for our virtual learning program, which if you think, boy, I only know so much about that, I bet you can guess one of the topics you're gonna learn about at a spring learning session. That's right, more to come. Cassandra has worked in education the past 12 years in the school district of Delavan. Cassandra worked as special education teacher associate as well as a high school registrar. She shared that she and her husband have vacationed in Door County every summer for the past several years with the eventual goal of retiring to the area once they were able to. This past fall, she was able to make the move. And while her husband is eager to retire, Cassandra is eager to return to work in schools. Welcome to the area, Cassandra, and welcome to our team here in Sturgeon Bay. So a motion to approve Cassandra Etner as a special education teacher associate with the virtual learning program is recommended.
I move to approve Cassandra Etner as a special education teacher associate with the virtual learning program.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Chisholm and seconded by Commissioner John to approve Cassandra Etner as a special education teacher associate with the virtual learning program. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Now we have approved a high school math teacher.
Yes, as far as one of our retirements, as we know, with Mr. Wind in the high school math department. Mr. Wind let us know right at the start of in service, right, and has talked with us going back a ways, knowing this would be a big position to fill. So Principal Nerby is a little bit excited about what I'm about to read for you here and what he prepared. Mr. Brandon Jolly is completing his master's degree in statistics from the University of Iowa, where he spent the past 2 years serving as a teaching assistant, teaching college level math classes. Prior to attending Iowa for his master's, he attended and graduated from Beloit College with a double major in mathematics education and Spanish, graduating summa cum laude. Mr. Jolly holds a math certification through DPI as well as a substitute teaching license. He's done long-term substitute teaching in the past. In addition to his teaching background, Mr. Jolly holds certification as a referee where he primarily focuses on soccer. In high school, he even played against Sturgeon Bay when he played for the Freedom Irish. He comes from a long line of educators with both his parents and a brother already serving in the education field. Dr. Joseph Lang, Mr. Jolly's professor, said Brandon was selected to serve as the lead teaching assistant because of his excellent credentials and his teaching style. Brandon stood out as a gifted teacher. I was struck by how engaged his students were in the learning activities he crafted. Clearly developed a very strong rapport with his students. Well, end quote before I go to the next sentence. Remember, we're talking math people. So he's engaging people in math. Yeah, I'm biased with my inner English teacher, right? He must be good. During the interview process, it was clear Mr. Jolly has enthusiasm and passion for mathematics and is eager to meet the needs of his students. His homework was very familiar with Sturgeon Bay High School, our course offerings, our strong math reputation around the state. His passion as well as ability to speak Spanish should serve our students and community positively as we move forward. We look forward to Mr. Jolly bringing his experience and knowledge to our math department. A motion to approve Brandon Jolly, Sturgeon Bay High School as a mathematics teacher beginning with the 2025-2020 school year, pending again the usual successful completion of the formal background check process is recommended.
I'll make a motion to approve Brandon Jolly as the Sturgeon Bay High School mathematics teacher beginning in 2025-2026 school year, pending successful completion of the formal background check process.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Hahn, seconded by Commissioner Spricka to approve Brandon Jolly at the Sturgeon Bay High School as a mathematics teacher beginning with the 2025-2026 school year, pending successful completion of a formal background check. Further discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you anticipate him taking over Mr. Wynn's classes as far as the upper level math classes or what?
Still working on the scheduling process, which is kicking off, but now that, again, we don't need the microphone because the owl picks you up, but
Yeah.
getting out here where the owl can pick you up.
There you go.
Go ahead.
We're starting the scheduling process actually tomorrow, so this week. So he won't be taking all of his classes. Some of our teachers, current teachers will take some of those classes. He has a really, really strong background in statistics. So he'll most likely be taking those classes, as I think they would be a great addition. But as we schedule it, all kind of falls to how things fall out. I try to, sorry, just gonna say, I try to mix both some of our, AP or higher level classes with some of the freshman courses or those types of things for all of our teachers, so they're teaching a little bit of everything.
What about, I don't wanna call it math club, what's it called?
Math team?
Team.
Yep.
Yes, so he's shown a very strong interest in that. Mr. Hallbaker, our current math teacher, has been co-doing that for the last 2 years with Mr. Wind,
Okay.
knowing Mr. Wind was gonna be leaving.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he's been helping the last 2 years, and I know that Brandon or Mr. Jolly has shown interest that he would love to continue to be a part of that in any way he can, or start to be part of that in any way he can as well.
Great, thank you.
Appreciate the questions, Angie, because Keith and I had some short discussions, maybe long, I don't know, about this whole math process and locking down a good candidate. So thank you
Yeah.
for getting it to us, and that he's hopefully accepted at this point. I don't know where that whole process is, but
Yeah, we're
it's a
excited.
challenge to find the right people.
Yep,
And
yeah.
and it's important to us.
The math team was part of the interview process and really excited and great, great references, and I think he'll be a really, really nice addition. Excited for that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I believe we are at the point, any further discussion? Then I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we got ourselves a new math teacher. And then we approved non-classified contract agreement.
Yeah, really, items 6 and 7, all those separate, right, between the non-classified, which we'll do now, and then the administrative contract renewal. Really, the first 2 paragraphs of the admin contract renewal, honestly, I probably could copy and paste those into the non-classified because, right, you got the usual updates from me during our January closed session, just how everybody's doing. And for both of these, while it's the renewing the contract because of the timelines, really the compensation doesn't get decided until later in spring after we've taken care of teacher compensation. All right, going back to the notes then for number 6. So a motion to approve the contracts for a human resource specialist, our bookkeeper / payroll clerk, our student information and data specialist, and superintendent / board assistant, right? So those 4 individuals is recommended.
Move to renew the contracts for our human resource specialist, bookkeeper, payroll clerk, student information data specialist, and superintendent board assistant.
Second.
Right? We have a motion by Commissioner Hawes, seconded by Commissioner Meyer to renew the contracts for our human resource specialist, bookkeeper and payroll clerk, student information and data specialist, and superintendent / board assistant. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So,
Yep, I can go right to it.
yep,
For the number 7, approve administrative contract renewal. Here, I'll just walk it through a little bit because sometimes people wonder, why does that come up now and how does that work, right? We have, I think, a nice system here where some districts it kind of happens almost by accident, which I don't know is the wisest way to do it. All right, so again, for anyone listening, and even though the board's heard this before. So first paragraph, right, we know the discussion occurred last month in the closed session following the regular board meeting. As a reminder, how this works is administrators must receive a preliminary notice of non-renewal at least 5 months prior to the expiration of the contract, which is why we give the initial attention to this in January. If no formal notice of renewal or non-renewal is given at least 4 months prior to the expiration of the contract continues in essence automatically for 2 years. Rather than simply have a lack of action constitute renewal, we here in Sturgeon Bay have felt that formal action is appropriate. As another reminder, even though contracts are brought forward for renewal as per those timelines I just touched on with statute, the board has neither entertained compensation recommendations nor decided on any compensation really until later in the school year. Typically, the board approves individual teacher contracts in the April board meeting and then approves the compensation for hourly employees, unclassified contracts and administrators, typically in that May. So motion to approve the contracts of high school principal, middle school principal, Sunrise School principal, Sawyer School principal, director of special education pupil services, director of teaching, learning and technology, director of buildings and grounds, director of food service, business manager, and superintendent is recommended.
I'll make a motion to renew the contracts of the high school principal, middle school principal, Sunrise, principal, Zara principal, director of special ed and people services, director of teaching, learning and technology, director of buildings and grounds, director of food service, business manager, and the superintendent.
All right. So we have a motion by Commissioner Jenner John, second by Commissioner Hawes to approve, to renew the contracts of the high school principal, middle school principal, Sunrise School principal, Sawyer School principal, Director of Special Education and Pupil Services, Director of Teaching, Learning and Technology, Director of Buildings and Grounds, Director of Food Service, Business Manager, and the Superintendent. Further discussion?
One question.
Yes.
So earlier, it said that if we don't do it, it's a 2-year. So does this mean it's a 1-year?
No, it's, well, we'll get into it, probably get you a sample, or I can explain even more later. But in essence, what happens is those of, here, I'll just use myself as an example. I'm holding a contract that's in essence a 2-year contract that governs this year, the remainder of this year and next year.
Okay.
All right, so we then take action. Some districts just kind of let it happen, that rolls that contract to cover the next 2 years. Right, so it doesn't guarantee what the compensation would be in year 2. Theoretically, it could be the same as year 1. But it kind of goes 2 years as a clip. So it's rolling. So right now I'd have, again, using me as an example, the remainder of this year and next year by doing the renewal. In essence, yes, there's still the remainder of this year, but then that's the approval to roll forward the next couple.
Gotcha.
It's even John Hauser and I, we would talk over time like, yeah, it's a little hard to wrap your head around kind of how that works in Wisconsin.
Okay.
But yeah, theoretically, a person, like sometimes when a brand new administrator is hired, it's not as common now because of supply and demand, but a person sometimes gets a 1-year, the first go round. Just like teachers, sometimes if a teacher is hired after a certain date, there's kind of the traditional, maybe they only have a 1-year contract, but now there's a lot of mechanisms that I think prepare or protect, if you will, the teacher and the district.
Sure. Want better
Good question.
understanding what I'm agreeing to.
That's right.
Sorry.
The next, I could tell you the next 3 years, but in Wisconsin, that would be illegal. The test case up in Eau Claire once upon a time where they renewed more than the 2 years was actually someone who was the superintendent of Oshkosh way back in the day when I was there. So that really can only go 2 more years at a clip.
Perfect.
Anything else I can tell you about that?
Good question. Appreciate it.
Any other questions?
It's not quite as exciting as a math teacher, I know, but
No, it's good. It's good. We definitely need you. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right. Good, motion carried. Point 8, professional staff annual compensation review update. This is informational. This is the meeting that we held.
yeah, no action taken tonight on that, as you know, even though we've alluded with the last 2 items that, our largest and arguably most important teacher group, right, or employee group, I should say, is our teachers, right? They're the ones in the classrooms every day working with our kids. And so we have a process going way back when, right? The year before I started my first year, kind of assembling that whole professional staff compensation plan, right? Which gets anywhere from little to big updates over time. So back to the notes. So as you know, and again, the board has all received this, and some of you, 4 of you were already at that meeting, frankly, on Monday, February 3rd. Right, but we have, I think, a nice history, getting to be now basically a decade old almost already, where we have some representatives of the board, some teacher reps from each building, and then usually the business manager and superintendent present to kind of facilitate, take notes, et cetera, about different topics. And that kind of is what's helped us navigate things from post-employment benefit to other things, right, over time. Going to the second paragraph of the notes, really what happens, as I alluded to again earlier, returning teacher contracts are typically approved in the April board meeting because there's a May 5th statutory deadline in the state of Wisconsin that if we don't give, basically, we have to have teachers their contract by then. Well, you can figure out that on the 3rd Wednesday, it's not too often that the May board meeting would beat that deadline, right? So we take care of that in April. Again, that 3rd paragraph just touches on what President Stefani and I've already said, that's just informational at this time. So I thought what I would do, I'm not going to read all through that because you haven't, but again, for anyone tracking this, and again, all teachers, right, before I forwarded the copy to you, all teachers in each building with the different groups that we have, I sent these to them. So it's not just the reps from each school, but all teachers had received this the other day. What I'll just do is kind of page 1 of the minutes, just give some of the history and the framework, including the fact that when the board approved this back in the day, the board said, we must have an annual review. Let's make sure it's relevant. Let's make sure we can continue to afford it, XYZ, right? Page 1 walks us through that. Page 2, as we've kind of done, I've just come up with some things that over the first few years, we learned like there's questions that could come up each year. They don't need a bunch of discussion. They just need a little review, right? So I have, in essence, 1 page of bullet points from everything from what the different appendices are that we've built over time to things like PTO, to annual board approval, like we have this. So again, those that have been at one of these meetings know we don't have to spend time talking about that with the teacher reps. They're aware. They review that even prior to the meeting to keep things moving right along. Page 3 then, kind of is where we get into certain topics for the year, right? And some of these are standing topics. You see number 3 there, or at the top of that page, kind of some different things about dual enrollment. Principal Nervy's been working on that. Nothing really the group needed to wrestle with. And then we get into really kind of topics for next school/fiscal year and beyond, into the information that really gets discussed each year. So things like the salary ladder, right? So Jake's pulled some information together. You'll hear more and see more of that, whether he alludes to some of that tonight as well as in our upcoming sessions, right? So that's a topic with some information. And then really going beyond that, additional points from the meeting, right? Different things about compensation, and again, teacher passing on some compliments that we've been working on this over time. You know, even though, you know, it's a challenge in all different sectors and some things have changed, you see those sub bullet points, right? Made by, whether a point was made by, I didn't identify by name, even though Jake and I have that in our notes. For everyone else, just kind of like what building they represent, or if a board member brought up a point. All right, and we have some of those things, like we had a board member talk about how these presentations are at our school board convention in Milwaukee in January. So our board members learn about that, and that, you know, there are certain pieces that while they might make sense in the private sector, don't carry over to the public sector as well. So that's really kind of a list of some things there. Going to the next page, the top there, Jake and I had this sketched out, and really this didn't result in much discussion because the move from our old sick day system to PTO, this part we pretty well have sketched out. And once the last post-employment benefit payment is made, which again, Jake alludes to in his report stuff for tonight, that's when we can get into some of this. So we're not to that point yet, but it's coming. Then I always have a section if someone specifically submits anything to me, right? I give them a save the date at the beginning of the year and all that kind of stuff. Nothing else was submitted to me. So that kind of tells us, right, how many hot topics, not that there weren't other things discussed, right? But no one else had submitted anything there. And then that last section really, as those of you that were there, and I'll give you a chance to add on to this, talked about different topics, right? That PTO and that shift kind of dominated discussion this year since it's the first year with our current system, even though some of the reasons for the system, right, have been talked about for several years. So we can circle back to that as needed. Really kind of the wrap up of some of the PTO piece you see there. And then really before the next steps about different where this goes with tonight's discussion, et cetera, just a few other topics that came up about matching 2 of our internal systems. The board doesn't have to worry about this, nor does the general public, but our Skyward system and our frontline language for the benefit of the teachers, just that the different absence things match up there, which makes perfect sense. There's a kind of a wellness type thing we call living healthy that gets into a person's health insurance, if you will, that just as some different things have changed, probably having that easier to find, especially for new staff, makes sense. Jake and I would certainly agree with that. You know, every year, well, not just in this meeting, but different times of the year, right? In recent years, there's talk about substitute teacher shortage, right? Our line of work is one of those that's unique in that a lot of places, there isn't necessarily a substitute brought in for an adult who's gone for the day, right? The work just waits when they're back. Well, in our line of work, we have kids, so we need subs. And of course, the reality is when it comes to hourly paid positions, we're in a very different place than we were 5 and 10 years ago. And post-COVID, we're also in a very different place with individuals retirement age that maybe don't sub as much as they used to for different reasons. And then the last one, with Wayne pulled this one together for me too, right? An example with some specificity, if you will, around, okay, the pre-tax salary might be this amount on our salary ladder, but really that position isn't worth simply say $65,000, for example, with that salary. But this example, like that position might actually be worth over $90,000 in benefits around by health system, retirement system, so on and so forth, right? So different things that are paid on behalf of the employee. So that was another one. I'll finish this part and then I'll just point out what I added. And then again, I'll pause for any of the board members that were there that day to add anything for further color for the board, right? How we have a system, then we share the notes, it's informational, we'll work through some things in the upcoming learning sessions and then be prepared to approve some teacher compensation and contracts typically in April. The next
2 pages were something I did new this year, just as I was kind of reading the notes and catching up with Jake afterwards. I just thought, boy, probably even a few of the compensation reps need a little review on what was said and what occurred last spring with a number of communications, right? There are a couple folks, I know even in August, I won't name names, but one of the individuals on the committee caught me in service and said, so was PTO ever approved? And I immediately thought, this person didn't read the updates from last May and June, probably, but I didn't say anything to that person at that time. I realized it was the start of the year. They were busy getting ready in their classroom. So I highlighted those and then really just took the language, right? It came out of that meeting, as some of you know, thought, well, is there like a 1-pager that kind of explains how PTO works? Well, bad news, it's not 1 page, but basically it's a couple pages that explains all the details of what everyone needs to know. So I put that in there. To date, even though all teachers have had this now for a number of days, I've received a total of 0 questions on the topic. So I think that must be covering most of what they need to know, if not all, so far. So those are the things there. Let me pause, because I know we had, let's see, Allison and Tina and Wayne and Mike on behalf of the board, in addition, of course, Jake taking notes for me. Anything you would add to that discussion before we move on? Point on that discussion.
I think it's good to get the different groups together like that, and then all of the teacher groups from the different schools all in one room with the board. It makes the working relationship much better, I think. They have trust in us. That's what I think.
I think you're right on, Mike.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Tina. I've heard, you know, a lot of appreciation too. They were happy that the process was continuing to go on, and, you know, it seemed like a lot of great changes have happened already, and they were optimistic about what's to come. So that's great.
Yeah, I don't think we need to get into specifics of stuff that was, you know, but you know, we've done certain things and we're moving in the direction that we can do. I think I can make a glittering generality. Some of this will depend on what Jake finds the nickels and dimes in the budget when we finally know what that is. So, you know, and they understand that too. So that was, you know, everybody was understood. It was an agreement on that. That's all I wanted to add.
More to come, both on, again, when Mike says that, I know the board members understand, but for anyone who's watching, right, there's our annual budget situation. But then, of course, the whopper in the coming months is, right, the state's biennial budget situation. So the last 2 years, we've known what support we are or are not getting for the most part, right? I won't get into some of the complicated nuances, although Jake might, if you ever want to get him going, talk to him about special ed funding. But now we don't know what does the next 2 years hold, right? Because that will impact some of the things and how we're able to go. But yeah, you're right. The teacher reps, right? I've shared information with them multiple times. Most of them have been involved in this for a number of years. They have a pretty good sense for how this works. So yeah, far more positive than not, absolutely.
I'll just kind of charged here. It would be nice if the state would ever be on the same level as school districts, because we all pass budgets before we know what's really coming in the till, for sure. It would make budgeting much easier for our business manager, Jake, or us, or any district, if we knew what that was. But it's just been that way for so long that I don't know if that's ever, it's just a wish and a prayer. So,
and maybe I'll just close with this, Mike, that we have, again, for anyone listening that might be concerned about that, we have the board approve a preliminary budget for the end of this fiscal year that covers next fiscal year, even though, right, our fiscal year, as again, the board members know, starts on July 1, but we don't technically know exactly what we're getting from the state until the middle of October, which is where our October session, right, with the official approval of the budget, right? A third of the way through the fiscal year, right? It's not how you or I would set that up, but it's been that way for years, and I don't think they're changing it. And then the whole piece about how that impacts the following calendar year tax levy and all those types of things. So
yes,
that's why we have the process we have. So I think we all make the best of it. We're as transparent about it as we can be. You know, if we were all king or queen for a day, maybe we'd fix it, but it is what it is.
it is what it is. So now we're at point 9, achievement gap reduction school board mid-year review. Again, information.
That's right. Maybe I'll have Director Weber come on down in case there's a question. Otherwise, I'll just reach, again, it's the mid-year review. Board have received that AGR Achievement Gap Reduction Report completed by Director Weber. In addition to the end-of-year report, mid-year reports were added several years ago. This includes information about math and reading for our kindergarten kiddos up through third grade. AGR program, which again, some of you longtime board members know was once known as SAGE, right? Or even if you haven't been on the board that long, you probably heard about that. May sound more familiar to some of us. So it's just informational, no formal action necessary, but we bring that to you not just at the end of the year, but now in recent years, in mid-year as well. So anything that happened to catch your eye that you wanted to ask Director Weber about now, but if you don't and you think of something later, she certainly would take your call or email.
I tried to read it all. I can't, it's too much data.
It's too much data.
You pull up, hey, there's great things here, there's a little bit there, but I appreciate the work you do, because
Thank you.
it's a crazy amount of
Yes.
whatever you're putting together, like, it seems like we're improving in the general aggregate though.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
That's what I
And
got out of
the
it.
interesting part about this particular update is that we switched from our traditional screening data, which was the STAR assessment, to Ames Web, which was required of us because of Act 20. And sometimes when you switch the test and then you switch the data that you're looking at, the data changes and it doesn't always create the same
Sure.
picture that you've expected. In this case, it created the picture we have been seeing. So that was good news. But I appreciate you saying that it's difficult to read, because it really is. Like, we try to make it as cut and dry as possible, but believe me, I understand that it's not the most thrilling information for me to be putting in front of you. I appreciate you taking the time to look at it.
I didn't get through it all.
What would be, Jen, one of, I mean, there's a number of them I know, but one of the most exciting things to you and to our elementary principals, teachers, or teachers that spend part of their day coaching, like, what would be one of the most exciting things that you could hold up for the board and anyone who watches this recording?
Well, I think that one of the things that keeps coming up for us is that especially in literacy, because we've been talking so much about that and focusing so much on our practices and getting our MLSS tiered support system in place, is that we talk always about closing the gap between where students are and where they're supposed to be. And we use that phrase, but we don't often actually see that happening. And in this case, we absolutely do. So when we look at our students who are now in first grade, where our students who we consider the kids who got the best of the best. So like when they started 4K, we were doing our new, we were in the middle of our new system. Teaching foundational literacy skills as we learned them in the science of reading. And so it's very interesting and exciting to us to track those particular kids, that cohort, because you see not only their achievement rising, but they're holding on to that information from grade to grade. So we don't see as much what we typically call summer slide, for example, when they come back in the fall. They're pretty much staying where they were, and then we grow them some more. So that's really, in all honesty, the real excitement of all this. So thank you.
Thank you. No action needed, so we can go to the Neil item.
Neil item, which
Yeah.
there's even news on the today.
Yeah, well, yeah, that with the WIA piece,
Yeah.
that follows kind of as well. But yeah, in this case, and again, we've all kind of heard this and knew this was coming and heard about it recently, so now Neola got us the description. Again, this can get very long and detailed, but really, in essence, it's a reset of sorts to what we had for several years with the previous Title IX policy. So again, I'll just hit on some of this. I won't read all the fine print. We do have more information for people that are interested. So in essence, you see 10A, where we're rescinding the policy 2264 that had been approved non-discrimination, excuse me, on the basis of sex and education programs or activities. And then in essence, approving or, putting back in, so to speak, policy 2266 non-discrimination on the basis of sex and education programs, activities, which we have had previously. So what I'll do is I'll just hit on these few paragraphs from the Neola write-up. Ann and I mean, we see, as you see some of it, but a bunch of emails. Neola, right, the Department of Education, right, at least for now is still in place and has released information. So basically, I'll just summarize for anyone listening, the Neola piece, right? So the first paragraph talks about the federal court decision that was issued on January the 9th of this year, vacating the 2024 final rule, right? So dealing with Title IX. Next paragraph, so Neola basically says, all right, as a result of that, you should continue to implement policies that comply with the 2020 Title IX regulations. In essence, the board policy we had in place for several years. That's that paragraph. The training piece, again, we've been ahead on that, so that's not so much the concern. I think their big concern was those that didn't do anything with the now vacated their guidelines. I'll go to the following paragraph. Those different training requirements are in effect. Again, we've had a mechanism for that. So whether we touch on that later this year or do what we usually do at the start of next school year, we should be fine. The next paragraph talks about Wisconsin school districts, being mindful. And I will read this because we did get it. Mike and I got an email that this week a person was just nicely just checking, seeing some of this in the news. So I will read these two sentences. In addition, Wisconsin school districts should be mindful that reverting to the policy/administrative guidelines 2266 based on the 2020 regulations does not alter the legal status of gender identity protection under our federal 7th Circuit Court. Discrimination on the basis of gender identity violates Title IX under 7th Circuit decisions. So I know sometimes people wonder, well, does this mean, a student can be discriminated? I think, as we've said, and I think different board members over the years have said it well, like, okay, no one wants any kid in the district to be discriminated against, bullied, picked on, etc. Right? So different classifications, different grown-up things can sometimes get a little complicated. But when it comes to, a kid can't be picked on, bullied, etc. That hasn't changed. There's no difference, just like what we had in place previously. The last paragraph also just talks about some of the different things about civil rights, what's enforced under Title IX, again, going back to those 2020 rules rather than what has been vacated. In essence, again, we're going back to what was business as usual, as I indicated to the resident that reached out to Mike and me, who sent a nice response thanking us for the information. So if someone wants even more details, Ann and I included in italics the U.S. Department of Ed stuff, but we thought, Neola did a pretty nice job of summarizing that for us. So in essence, this is just a first reading, rescinding/vacating the most recent Title IX policy, which again, at the federal level has been vacated, putting back in the policy we had for several years. That officially then happens with the second reading next month. Anything else I can tell anybody on that?
Can I ask a question?
Okay.
Okay, I went to an author talk that was really great in the Dorothy Reed's book. It was The House in the Cerulean Sea, and in the audience, I was surprised by how many young people there were who were really excited to have representation, and who, had a diverse, set of identities. The last line in the paragraph above the italic part, I'm less familiar with the Title IX rule than maybe I want to be. So the last line is the interpretation of sex to mean the objective immutable characteristic of being born male or female. What does that mean for kids who identify as trans?
I think there's a couple of things going on. So there is kind of the federal, what's in the news right now, right? Born male, born female, and really what Mike was alluding to is we received a message. I forwarded, some of you haven't even seen it yet, but the WIAA piece, right? Because that's a departure. That's following the current federal. So I'm going to go back and forth. That's okay, Allison, right? So as far as with the WIAA in alignment with that federal, right? If you're born male, you can be in male sports. Born female, female sports. No crossover for competition. It still could be allowed, if you wanted to allow someone to at least practice with the girls' team, the boys' team, whatnot. Okay, so that's kind of the strict interpretation. Where if we back up to my earlier reference, I think it's the previous paragraph. Yes, that Neola had in here about the 7th Circuit Court, right? That's where some of the gender identity and the pieces about, say, restroom usage would probably be the best example, right? We're well. And that's where, in essence, the attorneys tell us, work it out as best you can on a case-by-case basis, because powers that be out there haven't given schools, without this, throughout the 7th Circuit, let's just say Wisconsin in our case, very clear indication on how they should or shouldn't handle that. All right, so I think going back to the 2020, all right, in essence, it's a return to kind of how we've operated the last several years, right? Are there occasional concerns in society and whatnot? Absolutely. We've been able to, I think, work people in the district through that as best as possible. Knowing, you know, that this whole situation isn't completely over, as we can imagine. And even, again, coming back to a practical example like the WIAA communication today, that means that's in effect today. Okay, so while that's not a majority of, say, I'll just say high schools, right? Because there aren't that many middle schools that are WIAA members, it's mostly high schools. As we get ready for, say, the girls' basketball state tournament series, right? Regionals begin already next week, next Tuesday night. Okay, so if there's at least one high school team somewhere in the state that had a student, let's say, sorry if I don't get all the terminology perfect here, born male, but has gone through a process with their local school district and the WIAA of different things around hormone therapy. You know, we had a situation with that a few years ago. A student navigated that, legal name change, etc. Our student wasn't looking to participate in athletics, but if there's somewhere on a girls' basketball team, a student that maybe was allowed to participate all this basketball season, okay, we'll probably see some things in the news in Wisconsin pretty quick, because there'll probably be, you know, someone's going to sue somebody next week. Because like, oh, the WI had allowed that student, again, I don't even have one case in my mind, to be perfectly honest, but across all the high schools in Wisconsin, well, in Wisconsin, it's possible we have at least one, right, to participate, and everybody knew, and their, you know, locker room arrangements are made, and all those things that have happened, and then all of a sudden, effective next Tuesday, wait a minute, if that team is supposed to be in competition, that student athlete wouldn't be able to participate, or in essence, the team would end up forfeiting, right, if they allowed the student to participate, because they wouldn't be following the WIA rule, right? So you have, as the attorney, so we have each month, WASDA, right, the district administrators group has a Zoom meeting. It's on all sorts of topics, as you can imagine. The attorney who addressed us for a good chunk of the time today hit on this one and just said, wow, you know, schools, you know, clarity from the WIA is nice, but you're in kind of a tough spot because a few of you might have a unique situation where you had worked with the student athlete and the team under what the WIA had said was okay the last several years. And now it's not like effective next year, it's effective immediately. That could get tricky in the next week.
Thanks for explaining.
It's complex, right? It's a situation where, you know, people are on, you know, very different sides and somewhere maybe on the continuum on the issue. I think every one of us understand that. And so navigating that through, I think the main thing, as I shared with a resident that reached out to Mike and me, is, you know, I think people know us well enough to know that, you know, that there's trust built up, that, you know, we want to do the best we can, but we also want to be reflective of the community and values and all those things, that we don't want one kid to put other kids in a tough spot. And while technically that can happen, we haven't had kids and families, at least so far, that are looking to do that. And that's where, like, the whole restroom thing, and Lindsay can give you all sorts of information. I won't ask her to do that now, but about, you know, where the gender neutral restroom technically by the Seventh Circuit Court anyway, isn't quite enough. But we've had students and families in the past that have said, no, that is fine. So again, very complex issue, clarity in some ways now, but in other ways, you know, there'll be other legal challenges coming, and somewhere along the line, not to, you know, whatever the topic might be, but I sometimes wonder right now if attorneys are behind a lot of that, because attorneys are making a lot of money off this stuff, to be perfectly honest.
All right, I think any more on that? If not, we're gonna move to reports. All right, let's move to reports. Any legislative or CISA reports? Committee seminars for anyone? All right, administrative, we got Mr. Nervy, come on down. You're the first contestant.
All right.
And maybe while he's coming down, I can say again for anyone watching that the board did share reports, like when we went to the school board convention in January, right? All the board members who were present, as well as Mrs. Denise, Jake, and myself shared notes of some of the things we saw. Greetings, Principal Nervy.
Oh, so between the written report that I shared for this month and the board retreat that we had only a couple weeks ago, I just wanted to share some information. I talked with AD Dupuy, and I asked him to give me some updates on the sports season as our winter season here is coming to a quick end here in the coming weeks. So just wanted to share some of what's been going on. The 24-25 winter athletic season is coming to an end. We want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all who contributed in making the seasons a success. The dedication of our student athletes, support from our families, coaches, and community members shows that Clipper Nation is alive and well. So a couple things, our wrestling team is doing outstanding. So wrestling secured a conference championship, our first since 2009, by going undefeated in conference dual meets. The wrestling team increased their numbers this year, which helped to fill different weight classes and allowed them to compete at high levels all year. This year, 2 wrestlers, Zach Werbel and Spencer Madsen, reached the 100-win milestone. There are 7 wrestlers who advanced to sectionals, which will be this weekend. Tiana Lemieux, Lainey Brower, and Izzy Andrea on the girls' side, and Spencer Madsen, Zach Werbel, Ethan Denamer, and Harry Schartner on the boys' side. So that's pretty exciting. We're hopeful to have representation at the state tournament in Madison, not this upcoming weekend, but the following weekend. And we look forward to wrestling having great representation at all the conference team events coming up. Girls basketball, I don't know if we've talked about girls basketball at any point this winter season at all. But the girls basketball has been competitive throughout the season, securing a few victories and having some hard fought competitive battles throughout the season. The girls team is led by seniors Katie Carlson, Gabby Trinago, and Dasha Yeltashiva. Sturgeon Bay team secured the 11th seed and will travel to Tomahawk for the WIA regional contest on the 25th. I'm sure we will hear more about that. All right, the boys basketball continues to play strong in a tough Packer Lane conference. The boys team currently sits in 5th place in the conference with a handful of games to go in the regular season. Postseason play starts the first week of March. We look forward to the challenge. The boys team is led by a strong senior class that includes Braden Evers, Jackson Starr, Hayden Tracy, Ian Frazina, Caleb Plesak, and Bryce Hansen. The boys team should get good recognition on all conference team, which will be coming up. We have some excellent academic students on all of our sports teams, so that's really exciting. Our dance team had a successful season qualifying for state tournament in the D6 POM category and finishing in 11th place, with sophomore Caitlin Kramer also advancing as a soloist, where she earned all state honors for her performance. Even our bowling team, Dominic Blish secured a spot at state for the 2nd time as he finished 4th in the conference. Dominic bowled an impressive 252 frames, 116 strikes, 90 spares, and 46 opens. I still use the bumper, so that just blows me away. The ski and snowboard team, the ski and snowboard club battled all the elements all year and had 2 individuals qualify for the state tournament this past weekend in snowboarding. Jordis Brilla and Mackenzie McLean competed this past weekend for state championships in lacrosse. So in addition to those things I shared, I just wanted to share out some of the great things that are happening with our sports teams this winter as we gear up for spring sports. Yes, we're already thinking of spring sports coming up here pretty quickly. So that's what I've got.
Oh, Mr. Derby.
Yeah.
How did solo ensemble go?
Solo ensemble, yes. We had solo ensemble this past weekend. We had so many students. It was great. I was there. I saw some of you there as well. Our students competed at Sevastopol in solo ensemble that snowy day. Some of that discussion whether we go or not, but they bring in judges from all over the state. We had over 20 students earn class first ratings. But it's really cool because we have middle school students and high school students, and they compete both in solo and small ensemble programs. But our students did outstanding, and it's just really, that's a fun one to see. And the students getting their nerves, so many students, a lot of tears because they're just nervous about doing it, but it's great to see. I'm a little bit partial because I have a middle school student who competed for the first time. We got a little emotional, right? It's stressful. You're going up and you're doing this in front of judges, you're doing this in front of other students, but the students just did outstanding, and that's always a lot of fun. Your child did very, very well as all of them did. So it was really neat, and the judges' feedback is so helpful. So the kids get a lot of that. So yeah, we just had that this weekend. So good stuff. Thanks.
Thank you. And your daughter rocks the tuba. She's really
She
good.
loves that tuba.
She
You
is.
hear it all the time in the house.
So lucky.
Yeah.
Here's some updates for the middle school. So obviously tomorrow night, both secondary schools, they hold parent teacher conferences from 4 to 7. Ours is in the middle school gym, so we hope we get as many people out here, but I have 4 brief stories I want to share. First, our Clipper Kindness Club, they've been visiting Sunrise 3rd graders and they've been reading to them, and they made some connections with middles and littles. And what we've seen is our kids have been they give each student they work with 2 books for their own to take home and read, which is, I've seen some great connections with that. Secondly, someone asked about band and the solo ensemble. Just give you an update. Like, obviously, I highly encourage you to come to one of the band performances before the end of the year if you can make it. Our middle school band, so there's 7 events, 8 students had a perfect score, 25 out of 27 scored in the top category. The 2 that did not were 1 point away from being in the top category. It's like the 2nd year in a row, Mr. Van Loop's kids have just absolutely just dominated. And so and not to outshine choir, she's just finally got kids in the middle school coming back into this program. So started off small with 6 kids, but I could tell you our choir program, we're getting more and more kids in it. So she hopes to have a lot of kids next year in this. So great to see that happening. Third, if you've been following sports with us, wrestling is about 36 kids in it, but basketball, girls basketball running right now, it's been a little rough for the past few years. Both our middle school teams beat Kiwani, which both were in 1st place. One of the teams was undefeated. So that's great to see because 2 weeks from now, we're hosting the girls basketball conference at our school on Saturday, March 1st. So come on out to that. And then finally, just a little fun, sometimes you don't understand the impact that you have on some kids and how it trickles from school to school. We had a thing called Class Dojo, was basically the teachers give kids points, positive, kind of negative. I got to remind you, but they can use that for our school store. What's cool about this? Their monster that is kind of like their mascot. His name is Mojo. There's a contest to get Mojo a friend that's going to be traveling and playing with him onto their island, their gaming system that kind of gives rewards to kids. We had several submissions, but I'm going to just read you one. One student clearly stood out above all. Her name is 6th grade student is Kenzie Jancourt. She created a mascot to hopefully if it gets accepted. His name is Jojo Dojo, the cousin of the official mascot, Mojo Dojo. Jojo is in a wheelchair, loves reading and math, has a service dog named Honey, and over the summer worked on a lemonade stand with her cousin. So you kind of see how this all works out. Her goal was to raise money with her cousin to help make Dojo Island handicap accessible. So just sometimes you understand, like, we really have a great impact on the students we get to work with. So it is, they made a drawing. It's just absolutely incredible. I got to meet talk to her mom and dad. So it's just pretty cool to see. So I'd love to see the kid win. That'd just be awesome for us. But so that's kind of all that's happening with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Mark. The other half of Team Smullen is coming on down. I think she skated over from the rink or her house, maybe.
Oh, yeah, we've been doing some ice skating.
Yeah.
In the Smullen household. Yeah, that middles and littles is very cool, where the kids are very excited about that, so we're thankful. In addition to all the work happening in our classrooms, we have a spelling bee update. We hosted our school-wide spelling bee. Big thanks to Mr. Chernobyl. I don't think I ever reported this last, he was our announcer. He did a great job. It was a little brutal, like the words. It was like first round, it was a lot of elimination, but 3 rows to the top. So big congrats to Snora Mauer, Ingrid Back, and Penny Stinnett. Our winner was 4th grader Penny Stinnett, and she went on to compete in regionals last week. She made it through 3 rounds, so we were really proud of her. And then our Sea Perch team competed in regionals, and at our YMCA. And then the top team, the Manta Rays, they're invited to go on to Green Bay. And so that was Carver Kabalka, Oliver Solomon, and Wesley Hollingshead, but they all were great. And it was, like I said last, over the board retreat, all of these teams, they were winners already designing these robots to compete underwater. It was really cool to watch. So yeah, they learned a lot. And a lot of the kids they competed against were older, and they still they did well. So, and that's cool. In other news, former Door County Poet Laureate Mike Orlak, he joined us at Sunrise. The 4th grade is doing a poetry unit. And so one of our 4th grade teachers, Mr. Groders, reached out to him. He came and worked with some kids multiple times over the course of the unit, just to help them develop their poems. They did an incredible job. Mike, as a thank you to us, wrote a poem about sunrise, and Mr. Groders read it to us at our staff meeting tonight. It was like really beautiful, like it welled us. A lot of us got a little teary about it. It was, so we have to frame it or do something with it, because it was like, he really was inspired by our students and being at Sunrise, and just, it was humbling, and we needed that in February. We needed to hear all of his kind words. It was great. Battle of the Books is coming up next week, and so we look forward to updating you on that. So we have quite a few teams competing. I'm on the staff team. I got beat last year by some fourth graders, so I'm really hoping that our team has read our books and is prepared, so we can, anyway, they'll go on to regionals. The staff just do it for fun. And then finally, we're gearing up for summer school, many great class ideas. And so we're getting that sign up to students and families in early March, but we're getting excited about summer already.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. From one Katie to another. Principal DeVillers is coming on down.
Hi, everyone. Tomorrow at Sawyer from 4:30 to 6 p.m. is our annual family fun night. It's a great event. Big thanks to the staff. They put it all together for the families. But if you can come, you might enjoy snacks, coloring, minute to win it games, beaded bracelet making, books to take home, family games, B-bots, which are these little robots that Miranda Etchison, our STEAM and 4K and K related arts teacher, you program them and they teach kids about directionality, alphabet, a whole bunch of things. They look like bees, so it's very cool that they have them at Sawyer, of course. There's puzzles, blocks, pet tangrams, and math games. So it's always a fun event. And we're looking forward to welcoming families tomorrow night. Parent-teacher conferences are coming up on March 6th and 7th. Parents will be getting a Bloom's message. Just a reminder to any parents out there coming home on Monday at 3, and they can sign up for conferences. I have teachers keep track, and I usually share with you the percentage, but we have a real high percentage of parents that come, which we like. And not necessarily new, but more promoted this year because of Act 20 and reading plans going home and things. We have given parents the opportunity to spend more time with our coaches and interventionists to learn more about that. And they have had parents sign up. So not only are they interested in coming to talk to their teacher, but learning more about where their child is in literacy and math. And so that's a growing thing, and we're excited about it. Lastly, it was in the written report, but I really want to highlight because we had an admin meeting, and when I got back to Sawyer, I saw the LEAP students, our autism kids, coming back. Each of them were carrying their little car seat because they're taking more and more field trips and having experiences out there. They went to the Y to swim today, and they're just, I have to give a shout out to the staff there. Lindsay, too, who oversees that, Sherry Van Bogart, who is our head lead teacher. They're getting out in the community, and they're doing a really good job, and it's making their educational experience so much better. So that's what I have.
Good note.
Yeah.
Cold outside, but warm in the pool, right?
The directors gave up their time
I was gonna say, I know Director Ferry planned to yield their time. Director Weber already came down, so you're good. All right. That means, the person who always has puppy dog rainbow bright information to share with us.
Okay, I could talk about puppy dog rainbow. He's frozen. I have read up on.
She's probably not watching, so someone will be getting a bike at some point.
Yeah.
I don't want to give it away.
Yes, as Commissioner Jenner John knows, we have a birthday coming up on Monday, and we're getting a bike.
She might be watching.
Yeah. She better be in bed. I think the only thing to add, maybe along the legislative line, there's a lot of bills going through the state legislature right now. They just began their session recently. Some of the hot educational topics. I believe this actually went through today, at least one of the houses, the report cards, the state report cards, resetting the standards. They were changed this past year. Some more information on civics curriculum, cursive in the classroom.
Joel Kitchens has a cell phone ban, that he co-wrote. And then there's also a bill, don't expect it to go very far, that basically says school districts need to be sending a minimum amount of their budget on classroom things, people, yes, and limiting the amount, Superintendent Trinado.
The representative who crafted that did attend our superintendent meeting a couple weeks ago. When we had legislators in the room. Joe Kitchens was present, as were others, and they talked about things from like the Literacy Act 20, the cell phone ban, stuff Joel wrote, has written it, etc. And then when that particular bill came up, they paused and said, well, Joel, could you start this one? He said, well, the guy who wrote it's sitting right here, but yeah, I can start. And he paused, he took a breath, and you could tell he was trying to say something nice, and he said, well, let's just say this bill has a lot of problems. And so people started laughing. And then the gentleman, whose name, yes, is Ben Franklin, brand new representative, assemblyman, if you will, Republican, said, okay, I can tell you where I was coming from. I know there's only so many resources. I really wanted money to go to teachers as much as possible, but I know there's only so much. Clearly, I'm a rookie at this. I really didn't write the bill very well because it gets into some, what could be viewed as anti-administration stuff, which he said was not his intent. And so everyone in the room kind of realized like, yeah, that's not going anywhere, including the guy who wrote it. So, and then he finished, people laughed. It was good dialogue. It was one of those exactly like the type of thing we need to see that we don't see on television. Like there were Democrats and Republicans in the room, state senators and reps, a number of soups. It was really good, probably the best dialogue we've ever had, not that there hasn't been some good dialogue before, so, including the new gentleman, Ben Franklin, and a couple others that, I mean, we've been sworn in for 2 weeks, we are brand new and just learning. So anyway, in the end, just fine, to Jake's point, some of these, and Joel would say it if he were here, some of these bills, they're out there to get some discussion, and they're not going anywhere.
And then finally, yesterday, Governor Evers rolled out his budget proposals. Probably a lesson in futility to go through that and what it might mean, forecasting his numbers. But certainly some points in there like special education, categorical aid, food service money, per pupil spending, that, right, you can imagine will be, points that will be included or talked about in the coming state budget cycle. Probably still another couple months till we start hearing what the other side of the aisle is proposing. And at that point, I think you can start putting together, projections from one side to the other to middle of the road. And then still a number of months until we get a final budget. So
What did he propose for the special ed funding?
60%.
Yes, so there are quite a few things that went up. I actually read it this morning too.
Sure.
And so it's hopeful, right?
Yeah.
But it's not gonna be what it is,
Right.
right? We know everything's gonna roll back, but there's a step in a positive direction, I think, for schools.
Yeah.
Right, when everyone's competing for the surplus dollars, right, for roads and you name it, everyone's competing for it.
Absolutely.
I think schools is a good place for it to land. I don't know if we'll get as much as we think we should.
Oh, wasn't it like $3 billion he wanted?
It is, yes.
Education.
But what does that really mean for Sturgeon Bay? It's hard to figure that out.
I mean, obviously, it would be, you're right, if that passed through, it would be very positive for us and we can provide a flexibility and opportunity. Again, a lesson in futility, I think, if I were to plug that in and spend time on it, at this point.
Yeah.
So.
Good read.
Yeah. Maybe perfect segue to my report, which is the last item of this whole session, right? So in the teaching and learning section, I talk about that superintendent meeting legislators were at, and I mentioned it in here, but I think to the special ed point, right? Joel Kitchen shared with the whole group, including in front of his colleagues that were there, that in talking with co-chair from joint finance, right? Joint finance co-chair told him like, okay, everybody's talking about special ed funding. I don't think there's any way we get through this next state budget without doing some sort of increase to special ed funding. Now, how much, how fast? Right, that's a whole nother thing, but something will happen there. We'll see about the rest. I'll skip that. And then maybe I'll just go, you've seen my report to the items I added to the report. Again, this will be the version that I send out to all staff. I added these since we took care of the reports for the board packet last week. So I sent out an email that a few people in this room received. Most of the board doesn't have to worry about it, at least as a body. But we'll get the Cooper Connection newsletter work group together the night of March 5th. So we'll meet after school prior to our learning session. And we'll ask basically we're asking for at least one rep from each school and anyone else that wants to submit content. The short version is we'd love to do kind of a early spring edition coming off winter. Right, we know we have plenty of content, just a matter of going through it. And then have one ready for the summer that is finalized before the end of the school year. All right, but lost my mind trying to finalize it last summer when things were out of session. So we're not doing that this year. The herding of cats in the summer is much worse than the herding of cats in the school year. So plan is then for that group, get it all taken care of before the end of the year. And then whenever Dave Elliott and his team say it can go in the pulse over the summer, that's the plan. Gonna go to a new session at the Community Foundation. I got invited to for, I almost said next Thursday. That's tomorrow morning. All right. UW Extension working with retirees around a program, education and youth, to try to, I think, line up people that want to support, volunteer, maybe get fiscal support. I'm not sure. So I know the county soups were invited among others. So I'm gonna plan to attend that. And then I won't read through the whole thing, but just had a number of folks I wanted to thank for all of their support the last couple of seasons for the Lady Clipper girls basketball. And so when that goes out, we'll give shout outs to all those people. So I'll stop on that.
Excellent. Before we go into closed session, one of the things I just want to mention, looking around the library, when we were down to the convention, school board and administrative convention, once again, we had a massive showing of artwork that was like kind of, I don't know how to describe it, in the foyer, if you will, of the area where people would walk by. And there was a lot of unbelievable artwork from talented people all over the state, but our school district, I think it seems to be almost annual now that we have more, like we have a lot of amazing artists here. And I know there's a daughter of one that's sitting right here at the table here, Damien's daughter had a piece down there. It's just incredible. And just looking around the library here, things change often. Like that's new, there's a few, and like that over there. I just can't believe the artwork that we have in our district. And I just wanted to give a shout out to our talented kids, because I can't really draw a stick person without screwing it up. So it's really is impressive to see what these kids can do.
Absolutely. Down at convention, right? We had Jordis Brilla. I was bringing up the pictures.
Yeah.
Ayanna Howard. We had Ryan Fellhofer. We had that's right, I took two pictures of that one. Let's see. What are you doing now? Right now? Is it Malia or Malaya? I apologize. Growth Rock. Yep. All right. Piece there, and then Heather Hubbard. I think that, yep, that was our contingent. So several Sturgeon Bay artists. There are probably 3 schools that have a few pieces kind of like us, and 2 other schools that maybe have 1 or 2.
But for a school our
Cool.
size,
Yeah.
it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So
Well represented.
anyway, just wanted to mention that. Now, do we, actually, with the closed session, we're not acting on anything tonight, so I don't know, I honestly don't know the rules. So you have to vote to go in closed session.
Yes.
Oh, that way. All right, let's do that. Can we get a roll call vote to go in closed session, or make a motion? Yeah.
Okay,
So,
if we go into closed session 19.85 for the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. And here, performance evaluation of district administrator and maybe we'll return open session.
Right, and do we have a second?
Second.
Nice, we get a second, we get a motion by Commissioner Jenner, second by Commissioner Cruz to go in a closed session on A 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Subpoint one, mid-year performance evaluation of district administrator, and then we will return to open session. Further discussion? All's in favor, please say, oh, excuse me, roll call vote. Yes, thank you. Thanks for saving me.
Commissioner Skrtka,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz,
Yes.
Commissioner Stefani,
Yes.
Commissioner Jenner,
Yes.
Commissioner Chisholm. Yes. Commissioner Haas,
Yes.
Commissioner Meyer.
Yes.
All right.